Choosing Home by ginnyrules27, Chapter 40. Claudine smiled as she caught a glimpse of herself in her ivory dress. It was a simple A-line dress with lace sleeves and bodice, but at the same time, it was elegant enough with the tulle skirt to make her feel like a princess, especially with Henry's medallion hanging around her neck. 5 months had passed since Audrey's death, and while Henry and Claudine had offered to postpone, Aurora and Philip had insisted they hold their wedding. Aurora couldn't help but smile as well as she walked into the room. "Nervous?" she asked Claudine. "A little," Claudine said, biting her lip, but taking care not to mess up her makeup. She knew Audrey's death was still raw for Aurora. Claudine had spent the planning process trying not to rub it in Aurora's face that she'd never see her own daughter get married. Not that Aurora had acted anything but kind and helpful, walking her through the myriad wedding dress designs until they found her dress. And Philip had taken Henry under his wing. You know, once the king got over the fact that Henry being Claudine's fiancé. Philip had taken Henry suit shopping, and of course Phil went with Henry to get a suit fitted by Audrey after the blue-haired VK had found out that Henry was trying to get his suit off the rack for his wedding. Aurora wasn't entirely sure if the inflections were truly Evie's doing, or if they were Phil adding some embellishments when he was retelling the story, much to Henry's embarrassment. "It's normal to be nervous," Aurora told her. "Really?" Claudine asked. "I don't mean to be. I mean, I love Henry, and I want to spend my life with him. I'm just waiting for Freddie to jump out of a shadow and tell me to stop being such a shame to the Frollo name. Not exactly the best thing to think about on your wedding day." Aurora couldn't help but give Claudine a sad smile. Every bride is a bit nervous on their wedding day, and it probably doesn't help your nerves to have grown up with Freddie as a brother. Claudine nodded. I used to hide up in the bell tower of Dragon Hall when I was a kid. That was one of the 3 schools on the Isle. Frollo used to always say that women should be seen and not heard anyway. And that was fine. Until one day, Freddie came down to the common area where we lived and told me that I wasn't going to be someone he was ashamed to say he was related to anymore. So he was always charming," Aurora said dryly. "Yeah," Claudine sighed. "He taught me how to throw my daggers. Probably the only nice thing he's ever done. But, in all honesty, I'm done letting him control my life, especially on my wedding day." Aurora smiled as she heard that. "That's the spirit." I think it's more this is real nerves," Claudine told her after a few minutes of standing in silence. "We spent so much time in secret that it's hard to believe it's actually happening, or that we don't have to hide anymore." "Never again, honey," Aurora thought with a sad smile, as she thought about how Claudine and Henry had lived before coming to Auradon. "You look beautiful, sweetie," she told Claudine. "Thank you, Aurora. I feel beautiful." "You should. Every bride should feel that way on their wedding day." Claudine couldn't help the small smile she gave Aurora, a smile that was readily returned. "Oh, one more thing," Aurora said as she pulled a dark wood box out of the tote bag she was holding. "What is it?" Claudine asked. Aurora's smile grew as she opened the box to pull out a tiara. "Aurora! It's beautiful!" Claudine gasped as she saw it. "Thank you, honey. It's been in the family for years. In fact, Leah gave it to me to wear on my wedding day." "But if it's been in your family, why are you bringing out for my wedding day?" Claudine asked as she looked at Aurora for a moment, before her eyes widened in realization. "No! Aurora, I'm honored, but I can't. It's yours." "And now it's yours," Aurora said gently as she brought it out of the box. "It's been given to the daughters of the Rose line on their wedding days, But are you sure? Claudine asked, her voice soft as she looked at the tiara. Of course I am. As long as you want it, that is. I do. It's just, I'm not, biologically, wouldn't you rather save it for Ari? Or even Paige? They're your granddaughters after all. Shouldn't they get it next? Aurora gave Claudine a small smile and brushed a wayward lock of the young girl's brown hair out of her eyes that had escaped from the bun it had been put in. Yes, they are my granddaughters, and they'll always be my granddaughters. If you want, you can give it to them when they are married. But, Claudine, you are my daughter. You're Claudine Rose, both by choice and by us. Claudine smiled as she gently took the tiara. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, honey, Aurora told her as she watched Claudine fit the tiara gently on her head. She had been telling the truth. After Audrey had been put under her enchanted sleep, Philip and Aurora had approached Claudine about legally adopting her into the family. Sure, she was past the age where she needed a mum and dad, but Aurora could still remember when she was 16 and wanted a more stable life after the excitement of being whisked away to the castle, only to fall into an enchanted sleep. She knew Claudine would never replace Audrey, but Aurora would never ask her to. Claudine couldn't help but smile as she looked at her reflection. Wow, I look like a princess with this tiara. Who would have thought the little bell ringer from the Isle would have a life like this? It truly was amazing. Am I ready? I think so, Aurora said as she handed Claudine her bouquet. I believe that's my cue, Philip Sr. said with a smile as he walked into the room, holding Ari close to him. After all, she was to be the flower girl, the two Smee twins acting as joint ring-bearers, while Hubert graciously watched Paige for them. Philip couldn't help but gasp softly at the sight of Claudine. You look beautiful, Claudine, he told her. Thank you, Claudine said. Auntie looks like a princess, Arabella said with a smile. Auntie very pretty. Claudine chuckled as she saw her niece. Somehow Evie had continued to work her magic and made Arabella a dress to match the bridesmaid dresses. Sea foam green, which was a colour according to Evie. It had a hex code of #93E9BE, and then she started saying words that Claudine really didn't understand, so she just nodded. The dress also had a navy blue band around the middle to match with Henry and his groomsmen's navy blue suits and seafoam green ties. Are you ready? Philip Sr. asked as Aurora took Ari from his arms. Uh-huh. Claudine nodded and took the offered arm, making their way onto the beach that Eric and Ariel had let them use. It had been originally free of charge, but neither Henry or Claudine were exactly comfortable with that, though being married near the ocean was one thing that neither one had wanted to compromise on. He was a pirate, she was a pirate's daughter. In the end, they came up with a deal that satisfied everyone. The beach would still be free for the wedding, and in return, Claudine and Henry would work at one of the lighthouses along the coast of Eric's kingdom. Paid, of course, despite the objections from the bride and groom, but neither Eric or Ariel would hear otherwise. Claudine had to smile as she felt the sand under her feet and heard the waves crashing softly in the background, the smell of the salt water on the air. All of that, plus the sun shining in the brilliant blue sky, just made everything perfect. Well, that and the aisle in front of them, rose petals scattered in front of them, leading to one grinning groom. Claudine knew there was a light flush on her cheeks as she saw the look of awe that crossed Henry's face, though she knew the same look was on hers. The man looked good in his suit, what could she tell you? God, this is real. I'm walking down the aisle, and I still can't believe it. she thought before stopping at the end of the aisle. Philip Sr. gave a sad smile, gently kissing her cheek, before going to stand next to Aurora. Claudine went to stand next to Henry, brown eyes looking deep into blue. If you ask Claudine, years from now, what it was that the officiant had said, or what her vows were, she wouldn't have been able to tell you. What she could tell you was that the sun had done Henry good. His skin was now a healthy tan, rather than the pasty pale that seemed to be a giveaway that he had been from the aisle. It made his blue eyes sparkle in a way they had never done before.
Henry, do you promise to love, honour, cherish and respect Claudine above all others, from this day forward, until your very last day on earth?
The officiant asked, pulling Claudine out of her thoughts and to the present.
I do. Claudine, do you promise to love, honour, cherish and respect Henry above all others, from this day forward, until your very last day on earth?
I do. The officiant smiled.
May I have the rings, please?
Claudine had to smile as Derek and Ryan gently nudged the Sneed twins forward, toward the two of them, the rings shining on the red velvet pillows they were holding.
Henry, please repeat after me, the officiant said, as Henry and Claudine picked up the rings. Claudine, please accept this ring as a token of my true, pure love for you. With this I give you my heart and soul. They are yours forevermore. Claudine, please accept this ring as a token of my true, pure love for you. With this I give you my heart and soul. They are yours forevermore.
Henry repeated, though Claudine knew the words weren't necessary.
Claudine, please repeat after me. Henry, please accept this ring as a token of my true, pure love for you. With this I give you my heart and soul. They are yours forevermore.
Henry, please accept this ring as a token of my true, pure love for you. With this I give you my heart and soul. They are yours forevermore. She gently slipped the ring onto his finger, smiling as Henry gave her hand a small squeeze.
This was really happening. You may now kiss your bride.
Henry smiled and gently connected his lips to Claudine's as their guests burst into applause. That didn't matter to Claudine, who smiled into the kiss as she happily returned it.
I love you,
Henry whispered. I love you too, Claudine told him. My wonderful husband. Henry looked a bit stunned at the new title before grinning.
That's going to take some getting used to, but I definitely enjoy hearing it.
They made their way down the aisle, before making their way over to the section of the beach that had been designated for the reception, as it was slightly more inland. Congrats, you two, Mal said with a grin. I'm so happy for you.
Thanks, Mal.
Henry smiled before giving her a small bow. Mal shook her head. I'm not queen yet, Henry. You don't have to do that, especially not at your own wedding. I'm not here as a captain or queen, just as a friend.
Well, thanks, Captain. I'm really glad you could come.
I wouldn't miss it for the world, Mal promised, before smirking and leaning close to his ear. And you should probably talk to Jay. He's got something that could help for the wedding night. You know, to make sure there aren't any surprises in about 9 months. Henry could only hope his face didn't resemble a tomato. The wedding night. It had been the thing he was most nervous about. He had always had the mantra that of never going too far with Claudine. He didn't want her to wind up pregnant, especially on the Isle, and having Frollo for a father. Plus, after everything his mother had gone through, sacrificed so he could live. Henry didn't want to spit on her memory like that, by getting another girl pregnant. But tonight, he wanted to make sure everything was perfect for Claudine. He hoped he could perform. Brooke's doing well, Mal said softly as the blonde left Nick's side and ran up, giving Claudine a hug. In the background, Henry could see Morgan looking rather cosy with Jake, while Jay and Lonnie danced to music only they could hear.
Yeah, she is.
Henry nodded,
From what Harris said, Gil's never left her side.
You blame him? Last time he did, Lachlan dragged her off to Freddy's crew. Any word on them?
Joined the casters, from what I heard. At least that's what Derek told me. Thanks, by the way, for getting him, Nick and Jake off the isle.
It hadn't just been those three. It was anyone who wanted to join to see the wedding. Of course, the offer was made for permanent residents of Oradon, though most of the crew had just opted for the day pass. You think I'd really leave my crew on the Isle any longer than I had? Henry?
Yeah?
Is that Dustin kissing Jace Baden?
Yes, I do believe it is, considering Jace was his past one.
Mal never needed to know that Henry had almost fainted when he saw that. But then, with the threat of Freddy gone, it allowed everyone the freedom to do things they might not have with the French fanatic roaming the Isle. Good for him, Mal said with a smile. He may be a brat, but he deserves happiness too. Henry grinned as Claudine came up and wrapped her arm through his. Come on, it's time for the first dance.
Well then, let's go,
Henry said, the grin never leaving his face. The two of them made it onto the dance floor as the first song began to play. Perhaps I had a wicked childhood. Perhaps I had a miserable youth. But somewhere in my wicked, miserable past, there must have been a moment of truth. Henry smiled as they swayed in time to the music, gently kissing Claudine's forehead.
You know, it's funny how Oradon somehow managed to get a song that fits us so well,
he whispered. Well, they do have magic, Claudine teased.
That they do.
For here you are, standing there, loving me, whether or not you should. Somewhere in my youth or childhood, I must have done something good. Claudine reached up and gently pushed a strand of Henry's red hair out of his eyes. Nothing comes from nothing, nothing ever could, she sang softly.
Henry smiled. So somewhere in my youth or childhood, I must have done something good.
The two of them stood there, smiling lovingly at each other as the music faded.
Even as a married couple, they're still nauseating.
Hush, Dustin!
Yes, Captain. Only teasing Henry.
Henry and Claudine chuckled.
Thank you all.
The reception went on into the night. Not that Henry and Claudine had anything negative to say about that. They continued to dance and cut the red velvet cake they chose in honour of Claudine's mother. They spent so much time at the reception, in fact, that by the time Henry and Claudine climbed into bed in their new home, all they had energy to do was lie there, holding each other close to them. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one because I freaking loved it. That was beautiful. I'm sorry about the singing, by the way. I do love that song, and it does have a very British accent, which suits me, but I haven't heard it in ages, so maybe I got some of the melody wrong, or maybe I pitched or something. I'm trying here. But I love that Aurora gave Claudine her tiara. I'm wearing my Aurora tiara right now. I'm heading to Disneyland after this recording in a few days, so I chose something where I am going to Disney bound as Aurora. It's a lovely rose gold tiara with pink and clear gems with leaf patterns all around it, and it's very pretty. I've got this floor-length hot pink gown with lovely flowy sleeves and skirt, so I'm looking forward to looking like a princess soon. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.